The morning sun was already shining when two young twin sisters, no older than 12, left their small wooden house at the edge of the town. They both carried a small cloth bag with a few coins wrapped inside. Their mother had been sick for days, and the little money they had saved was just enough to buy some bread, milk, and a few vegetables. The road to the grocery store was long, but the girls walked hand in hand, chatting softly and smiling despite their simple life. Their old shoes made soft sounds on the dusty path, and sometimes they stopped to pick up wildflowers or watch the birds. Even though they had very little, they had learned to find small joys around them. One sister was slightly more talkative, always finding something to laugh about, while the other was quiet but thoughtful, her eyes full of care and understanding. When they reached the grocery store, the smell of fresh bread and fruit welcomed them. The store wasn't big, but to the girls it always felt magical. Shelves lined with colorful boxes and shiny cans seemed like treasures. They carefully placed the few items they needed into their basket, counting the coins again and again to make sure they had enough. The shopkeeper smiled at them kindly. He had seen them before, always polite and cheerful even when buying only the cheapest things. After paying, the twins were about to leave when they heard a faint sound from the back of the store, like a soft cough or a call for help. They looked at each other curiously. The shopkeeper had gone outside to unload some boxes, so the girls were alone. They followed the sound quietly. It came from a narrow door behind the storage shelves, a door they had never noticed before. The talkative sister whispered, "Do you hear that?" The other nodded, her eyes wide. They pushed the door open carefully, and it led to a small staircase going down into the basement. The air felt cooler and a bit dusty. The strange sound came again, this time clearer. It wasn't frightening, more like someone struggling or in pain. They slowly stepped down, holding each other's hands tightly. The basement was dimly lit by a small bulb hanging from the ceiling. To their surprise, sitting in the corner was an old man wearing an elegant but dirty suit. His silver hair was messy and he looked weak, as if he hadn't eaten in days. He turned his head when he heard them, and his tired eyes softened when he saw the two little girls standing there. Are you all right, sir?" one of the twins asked softly. The man gave a small smile. "I'm fine, little ones. Just needed a moment to rest." His voice was gentle but filled with sadness. The girls stepped closer, noticing a torn part of his jacket that revealed a gold watch underneath. It looked expensive, something only rich people wore. But why would a man like that be sitting in a basement? "Did you get locked in here?" the quiet sister asked. He nodded slightly. "Something like that." He looked exhausted, as if he had been there for hours. The twins exchanged a quick glance and decided to bring him some water from the store. When they returned, the man thanked them, his hand shaking as he drank. The girls sat near him for a few minutes, listening to him speak in a low voice. He told them he had come to this town looking for someone but had fallen sick on the way. He didn't share much more, and the twins didn't ask. They were simply happy to help. They offered him a piece of bread from their small bag, insisting he eat something. The man hesitated at first, but finally accepted with a grateful look. Something about the twins' kindness seemed to touch him deeply. He asked them where they lived, and they told him about their small home and their sick mother. The old man's expression changed, as if a painful memory had returned. After a few moments of silence, he said quietly, "You remind me of someone I once knew, someone I lost long ago." The girls didn't quite understand what he meant, but they could see sadness in his eyes. They wanted to comfort him, so one of them said, "It's okay, sir. Maybe you'll find them again." The man smiled faintly. "Maybe," he whispered. The shopkeeper's voice suddenly echoed from above, calling out that the store was closing soon. The twins got up quickly, helping the old man stand. They promised to come back the next day to check on him. Before leaving, the man looked at them with gratitude. "Thank you for stopping," he said softly. "You may not know it, but you've already helped me more than anyone else." As the sisters walked home that evening, they couldn't stop thinking about him, the strange man in the basement who looked both rich and broken. The sunset painted the sky with orange light, and the sisters held their grocery bag between them, feeling something special had happened. They didn't know who he really was, but something inside told them their lives were about to change forever. And indeed, that chance meeting, two poor sisters, and a lonely billionaire, was only the beginning of a story that would soon surprise the whole town. The Next morning came with the same calm breeze that always passed through the little town. The twins woke up early, just as the sun began to rise over the hills. Their mother, still weak from her illness, smiled faintly as she watched them prepare a small bowl of porridge. They didn't tell her about the old man in the basement the day before. They didn't want to worry her. But both girls knew they couldn't stop thinking about him. While their mother rested, they quietly packed a small bundle of food, some bread, boiled eggs, and a little water. They didn't have much to give, but their hearts were full of kindness. "We should go see if he's all right," one of them said. The other nodded. They slipped out of the house and walked quickly toward the grocery store. When they reached the shop, the owner was busy arranging fruits on the front counter. They greeted him politely, and while he was distracted, they sneaked toward the back again. The door to the basement was still there, slightly open this time. Carefully, they went down the narrow steps. To their relief, the old man was still there, sitting against the same wall, but he looked better than yesterday. His face was cleaner and he seemed to have more energy. When he saw the girls, his face brightened in surprise. "You came back," he said with a gentle smile. "Yes," the quiet sister replied shyly. "We brought you something to eat." The man's eyes softened. "You didn't have to, but thank you." He took the food gratefully, eating slowly as if savoring each bite. For a few moments, the basement was silent except for the faint sound of footsteps upstairs. When he finished, he looked at them and asked softly, "Why are you helping me?" The talkative sister shrugged. "Because you needed it," she said simply. "Our mother always says helping someone in need brings blessings." The old man smiled faintly at her words. "Your mother sounds like a wise woman." They talked for a while and slowly the man began to open up. He told them he had once been very rich, one of the wealthiest men in the city. He had built companies, owned buildings, and traveled across countries. But somewhere along the way he lost something money couldn't buy: peace, family, and love. His wife had passed away years ago, and his only daughter had run away when she was young. "I searched for her for years," he said in a broken voice, "but I never found her. Eventually I lost everything that truly mattered." The girls listened quietly, their young faces filled with sympathy. They didn't know what to say, so they just sat near him. Sometimes silence was enough to comfort a hurting heart. After a while, the shopkeeper came down with a flashlight. He was surprised to see the twins sitting with the man. "What are you children doing down here?" he asked gently. The girls stood up quickly. "We were just checking if he's okay," one said nervously. The shopkeeper sighed, then turned to the old man. "Sir, you should have told me earlier that you needed help. I thought you left yesterday." The old man nodded slowly. "I didn't have the strength to go far." The shopkeeper helped him up, and the twins offered their hands too. Together, they guided him upstairs. The daylight touched his face for the first time in days. People walking by looked at him curiously. His suit was wrinkled, his shoes dusty, but there was something dignified in the way he stood. "Where do you live, sir?" asked the shopkeeper. The man hesitated. "I don't really have a place right now. I came here looking for someone, but I think I've lost my way." The girls looked at each other, then one said softly, "You can come with us for now. Our house is small, but it's warm." The shopkeeper raised his eyebrows. "Girls, are you sure?" They nodded without fear. Their hearts were pure. They didn't see him as a stranger, but as someone who needed kindness. That evening, the old man walked with them to their home. Their mother was surprised to see her daughters bringing an elderly guest, but when she saw his weak condition, she welcomed him with gentle words. She offered him tea and a blanket. The man thanked her deeply, his eyes glistening with emotion. Over the next few days, the old man slowly regained his strength. He spent time talking to the girls, helping their mother around the house, and sometimes sitting outside to watch the sunset with them. He seemed peaceful, though something still weighed heavy on his heart. One afternoon, while the girls were doing their chores, he noticed a small photograph hanging on the wall. It was an old, faded picture of a young woman, their late father's sister, the girls explained. "She went missing years ago before we were born," one of them said casually. "Mama said no one ever found her again." The old man froze for a moment, staring at the photo. His hands began to tremble slightly. He stepped closer, his lips moving as if whispering a name. His heart raced, memories flooding back. That face, that smile. It was the same face he had seen every day in his dreams. Who is she? He asked in a shaky voice. Our aunt, the quiet sister replied. Mama said she was very kind, but she disappeared long ago. The man sat down, his breath uneven. Could it be? Could this small family, these kind-hearted twins and their gentle mother, be connected to the daughter he had lost years ago? He looked at the girls again, his eyes filled with disbelief and hope. The resemblance was undeniable. The same eyes, the same smile. The twins noticed his strange reaction and asked, Are you okay, sir? He smiled weakly, trying to hide his emotions. Yes, my dear, he whispered. I think I just found something. I've been searching for all my life. That night, as he lay awake listening to the gentle sounds of the small house, tears rolled down his face. The kindness of two poor sisters had led him not only to shelter, but perhaps to the family he thought he had lost forever. The next morning began quietly in the small, humble home. The smell of fresh bread filled the air as the twins helped their mother prepare breakfast. The old man sat near the window sipping a cup of tea the girls had made for him. His eyes were thoughtful, still lost in the image of the photograph he had seen the day before. The face of the woman in that picture haunted his heart. It looked exactly like his long-lost daughter. He couldn't bring himself to ask the girls more about their aunt right away. He didn't want to frighten them or cause confusion. Instead, he decided to learn more about their family naturally. As the twins talked about their life, how their father had passed away in an accident years ago, how their mother worked hard despite being unwell, the old man listened carefully, every word deepening his curiosity. That afternoon, while the girls went to fetch water from the well, he sat with their mother in the small front yard. The gentle breeze carried the sound of birds and the faint laughter of the twins in the distance. After a few moments of silence, the old man finally spoke. You have two wonderful daughters, he said softly. They remind me of someone I once knew, someone I lost. The woman smiled faintly. Thank you. They're all I have now. Life hasn't been easy, but they give me strength. He hesitated, then asked, May I ask about the picture I saw yesterday? The young woman on your wall. The woman looked up in surprise. Oh, that's my elder sister, she said quietly. She disappeared when I was still very young. We searched everywhere, but no one ever found her. My mother never recovered from that pain. The old man felt his heart pounding. He tried to keep his voice steady. Do you know what her name was? The woman looked down sadly. Yes, she said. Her name was Layla. At that moment, the old man froze. His eyes widened and his teacup nearly slipped from his hand. The name echoed in his heart like a forgotten melody. Layla, that was the name of his daughter. The one who had run away after a family dispute, after she refused to marry the man he had chosen for her. She had left home without saying goodbye, and he had searched for her for years, but every trail had gone cold. Now, sitting in this small house, surrounded by kindness and warmth, he realized that fate had brought him to the family of his lost child. These twins, these innocent little girls, were his granddaughters. He took a deep breath, trying to hold back tears. Layla, he whispered under his breath. The woman noticed his trembling hands and asked gently, Are you all right? He nodded quickly, forcing a weak smile. Yes, I'm fine. Just an old memory, he said softly. But inside his heart was breaking, with regret, with relief, and with love. When the twins returned, laughing and carrying a small bucket of water, he looked at them with new eyes. Every small detail, their kindness, their smile, even their way of speaking, reminded him of Layla as a child. He wanted to tell them the truth right then, to hug them and say who he really was, but something stopped him. He feared that if he spoke too soon, they might not believe him. That night after dinner, the twins sat beside him, showing him their school books. We don't go to school every day, one of them said. Sometimes we can't afford the books or the fees, but we study at home. The old man listened with tears in his eyes. All his wealth and success had once meant nothing, and here were two children who had nothing, yet they smiled through every struggle. He thought deeply that night. Maybe fate had given him another chance, not only to find his lost family, but to do something meaningful with the time he had left. The next morning, he asked the twins if they could take him to the town's old records office. They didn't understand why, but agreed happily. He wanted to confirm the truth. to see if Layla's name appeared in the local records. At the small office, the old man searched through dusty files, his hands shaking with every page he turned. Finally, he found it, a birth record from years ago. The name Layla was written there, and under it the name of her child. His eyes filled with tears as he read the last name. It was his own family name. There was no doubt anymore. When they returned home, he sat in silence for a long time. The twins were playing outside, laughing as they chased each other around the yard. Their mother hummed softly as she folded clothes. Everything felt peaceful, yet inside him, emotions were swirling. Later that evening, when the girls went to sleep, he sat with their mother again. His voice was soft but heavy with truth. "There's something I need to tell you," he began, "something that may sound unbelievable. But it's true." She looked at him curiously, sensing the seriousness in his tone. He continued, his eyes filled with tears. "Years ago, I had a daughter named Layla. She left home after an argument, and I spent years searching for her. Yesterday, when you told me your sister's name, I knew I had found her family." The woman stared at him in shock. "You mean, you're—" He nodded slowly, tears rolling down his wrinkled cheeks. "Yes, I am her father. And those two little girls, they are my granddaughters." For a long moment there was silence. The woman's eyes filled with tears as she tried to process his words. The old man reached out his trembling hands. "I lost everything once because of pride. I don't want to lose family again," he said softly. "Please, let me be a part of their lives." Her eyes softened. She could see the honesty in his face, the pain in his eyes. Slowly she nodded, whispering, "Maybe this was meant to happen." That night, as he looked at the twins sleeping peacefully, the old man felt something he hadn't felt in years. A sense of belonging, of family, of love, but he knew this was only the beginning. He still hadn't told the girls who he truly was, and when he did, it would change everything. The next morning, the twins woke up early as usual, but something felt different in the air. Their mother seemed quieter than normal, and the old man, who usually greeted them with a warm smile, sat silently near the window, lost in thought. The twins didn't notice much. They were too busy getting ready to visit the market again, but both adults knew that the truth was now resting between them, waiting to be revealed. After breakfast, their mother asked the girls to play outside for a while. She turned to the old man, her face still filled with disbelief from the night before. "Are you sure about everything you said?" she asked softly. He nodded, his eyes misty. "Yes, every word. I've spent years searching for Layla. I never imagined I'd find her family this way, through two little angels who showed me kindness when I had nothing." She looked down, holding back tears. "If my sister were alive to see this, she would be so happy. She always missed you even after she left. She regretted the fight, but by the time she wanted to return, she fell sick. She passed away quietly, leaving only her daughters and her dreams for them." The old man's eyes filled with tears. He turned away, covering his face with his hands. "I failed her," he whispered. "I failed my daughter. I let pride destroy the only family I had." The woman gently placed a hand on his shoulder. "Maybe life has given you another chance, through them." He looked up slowly, nodding. "Yes, I must tell them the truth. They deserve to know who they are." That afternoon, when the twins returned from the yard, they found their mother and the old man sitting together, looking serious but calm. The girls looked at each other, slightly confused. "Did something happen?" one asked. Their mother smiled softly. "There's something we both want to tell you," she said. The old man took a deep breath. His voice trembled slightly as he began. "Do you remember the story I told you about the daughter I lost long ago?" Both girls nodded. He continued slowly. "Her name was Layla. She was kind, gentle, and brave, just like you. I searched for her for years, but I never found her." His eyes glistened with tears as he looked at them. "Yesterday I learned that your mother's sister, your Aunt Layla, was my daughter." The twins froze, trying to process his words. "You mean—" one of them whispered. "Yes," he said, smiling through his tears. "I am your grandfather." The room fell silent. The girls stared at him with wide eyes, unsure how to react. For a moment, none of them moved. Then the quieter twin slowly walked forward and said softly, "You're our grandpa?" He nodded, tears running down his cheeks. "Yes, my dear, I am." The other sister's eyes filled with tears. But you were in the basement. You look so sad. Why didn't you tell us? He smiled weakly. Because I didn't know then. Fate brought me to you. You didn't know who I was, yet you showed me kindness, something I had forgotten existed in this world. You reminded me of what truly matters. The twins looked at their mother, who nodded reassuringly. In that moment, both girls ran toward the old man and hugged him tightly. He wrapped his trembling arms around them, holding them as if afraid they might disappear. Tears flowed freely, tears of pain, love, and healing. For years he had lived surrounded by wealth but empty inside. Now sitting in that small house with two little girls in his arms, he felt richer than ever before. From that day forward, the old man stayed with them. He insisted on helping with everything, fixing the roof, buying medicine for their mother, and even teaching the twins small lessons every evening. The family's simple home soon filled with laughter, warmth, and hope. One evening, the old man decided to visit the town office again, this time to make a promise official. He updated his records, naming the twins as his legal heirs. He wanted to ensure that no matter what happened to him, they would never struggle the way they once had. When he returned, the girls greeted him at the door with excitement. "Grandpa, look!" they shouted, holding up a small basket. Inside were wildflowers they had picked for him. "These are for you because you make our home feel happy again." He smiled so widely that his eyes sparkled. "You two are my greatest treasure," he said softly. That night, as they all sat under the stars outside their house, the twins asked him questions about their mother, their lost aunt, and his past life as a billionaire. He told them stories, not about his wealth, but about the lessons he had learned too late. "I had everything once," he said quietly, "but I was never truly happy. I thought money could fill every emptiness, but I was wrong. Family, love, and kindness, those are the real riches of life." The twins listened closely, their eyes shining. "Then we're all rich now," one said with a giggle. He chuckled softly, wiping a tear from his cheek. "Yes," he said, "the richest family in the world." Their mother smiled quietly, watching them from the doorway. She had seen the change in him. The man who had once been broken by loneliness was now whole again. Days turned into weeks, and the bond between them grew stronger. The twins began calling him Grandpa without hesitation. He became their guide, their storyteller, and their biggest supporter. And though their life remained simple, it was now filled with love, laughter, and gratitude. But deep inside, the old man had one final wish: to make things right with the world he had left behind. He had lived a life of fame and fortune, yet his heart belonged here now, in this small house where two little girls had shown him what humanity truly meant. He knew the time had come to face his past and bring this newfound family the life they deserved. Weeks passed, and the small house that once echoed with quiet now overflowed with laughter and joy. The old man, now lovingly called Grandpa, had brought light back into the twins' lives. He spent every morning teaching them reading and math, every afternoon walking with them to the fields, and every evening telling them stories about kindness, forgiveness, and life's second chances. But deep inside, he knew something still remained unfinished. The world outside still believed he was missing or gone. His old business partners probably assumed he had passed away. He had left that world behind when his heart was empty. But now, with his family found, he felt it was time to set things right, not for himself, but for his daughter's children and their struggling mother. One morning, while the twins were out fetching water, he called their mother to sit with him. "There's something important I need to tell you," he began. She looked at him curiously. "What is it, Father?" she said gently, now used to calling him that. He took a deep breath. "You know I once had everything. Money, companies, land, and people who worked for me. I lost it all because I was too busy chasing wealth instead of love. But I don't want your daughters to grow up in the same world I created, a world that forgets humanity." She frowned slightly. "What do you mean?" He smiled faintly. "I still own things, shares, accounts, properties. They've been untouched for years. I want to put everything in their name. Your daughters deserve a better life, education, and opportunities. Not because of wealth, but because of what they taught me. Kindness without expecting anything in return." Tears filled her eyes. "You've already given us so much, and your love, your care. That's all we ever needed." He shook his head gently. "Love will remain. But I must also leave them something to build their future. I owe that to your sister. To Layla. The next day, he traveled to the city, and the first time in many years. The twins waved goodbye, promising to look after their mother until he returned. They didn't know exactly where he was going, but they trusted him completely. When he arrived at the city office, people were stunned to see him. His face had once been in newspapers, known as a man of fortune and success. Rumors had long spread that he had vanished after his company collapsed. Now here he was, older, thinner, but smiling peacefully. He spent hours meeting old lawyers and business associates. He explained everything, told them he had been away due to personal loss, and instructed them to prepare legal documents transferring his wealth to his granddaughters and their mother. When one of the lawyers asked, "Sir, are you sure you want to give everything away?" He simply smiled. "Yes, I've finally found the people who deserve it. And no amount of money can ever match what they gave me, a reason to live again." A few days later, he returned home. The twins ran to him as soon as they saw him, shouting, "Grandpa," and hugging him tightly. Their mother smiled, tears in her eyes, relieved to see him safe. That evening, as they all sat outside watching the sunset, he shared the news. "From now on," he said softly, "you won't have to worry about money or medicine or school. Everything has been taken care of. You'll have a new home, proper education, and a future full of choices." The twins' eyes widened in disbelief. "But Grandpa, we don't need money," one of them said. "We just need you." He laughed softly, tears glistening in his eyes. "And you will always have me," he said. "But I want you both to have wings too, to fly where life takes you without fear." Their mother began to cry silently, covering her face with her hands. For years she had carried the burden of raising her children alone, always worried about tomorrow. Now that weight was lifted, not by luck, but by love and fate. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, the old man sat by the window, looking at the stars. He whispered quietly, "Layla, I kept my promise. I found them. They're safe now." A few months later, life changed for the little family. They moved into a modest but comfortable new house that the old man bought for them nearby. The twins attended a good school, where they quickly became known for their kindness and intelligence. Their mother regained her health and began helping others in need, saying, "We were once helped when we had nothing. It's our turn now." The old man often sat outside their new home, watching them play, his heart full of peace. The townspeople, who once thought he was just a wandering stranger, now greeted him with respect and warmth. Everyone was inspired by the story, how two poor sisters had unknowingly saved a billionaire's life, and in return found a family they never knew they had. Years later, when the twins grew up, they often shared their story with others. They never focused on the money or how their life changed, but on that one simple act, choosing kindness when they didn't have to. "We were poor," one of them would say, "but our hearts were rich, and that's what changed everything." And as for the old man, he spent his remaining years surrounded by love, laughter, and peace. He often told everyone who visited, "Wealth is not what you keep in your hands, but what you share from your heart." When he finally passed away, he left behind not just riches, but a legacy of compassion that touched the entire town. People remembered him not as a billionaire, but as the man who found his family through kindness. The twins continued his message wherever they went, reminding everyone that sometimes life's greatest treasures are found in the most unexpected places, and all it took was one simple act of kindness in a grocery store basement to change everything forever.